My name is Alden Kroll. I'm a designer here at Valve. So I have historically helped set up NextFest and the operations behind there and all the tools for as you guys register and tracking all of that stuff. And
Hi guys, I'm Ria. I am part of the Steam business team, so send emails all day, mostly with folks like you guys in helping you get your games on Steam, making Steam a better place for you guys to use, and all that generic mishmash stuff that falls into a job description. One of the things I work on is NextFest. I also work on the theme sales you see on Steam. So excited to see what questions you guys have for us today. But before we get into that, we wanted to start off this session by talking a little bit about how NextFest has changed, actually. In particular, those of you who are eagle-eyed may have noticed that last NextFest, which would have been the February edition, we started utilizing, well, actually, it started in October, I guess, but we started utilizing an ML feature. So just to high-level summarize, and I'm not a ML person, so sorry if I get any of the words wrong, but in the past, NextFest has been organized completely randomly, and the idea behind that was we wanted to give every game an equal chance in the spotlight for their carousel. So if you went to the 3D platformer carousel, all the games in there were in there because they were tagged as a 3D platformer, but the order in which they were shown to customers was completely randomized. Starting in October of last year, we've made a little bit of a change. That is still the case for the first 2 days of NextFest, so Monday and Tuesday. And starting on Wednesday, we have this neat little feature that turns on and starts doing its best to recommend games to players who are going to like it based on activity in the last 48 hours. So you can think of it this way. Alden and I play very different games, like very different games. And what I want out of NextFest is going to be different from Alden and is going to be different from what you want to play in NextFest. So what the algorithm is trying to do is trying to match demos to people who are going to enjoy them. So I enjoy cozy farming sim, slow-paced games. So the algorithm is going to do its best to find the game that best matches that in the 3D platformers carousel and show that to me. We also have a section in NextFest, if you've seen it recently, called For You, I think is what we've called it. And that is totally filled with recommendations on who you are as a player and what you like to play. This ML algorithm sort of takes that to the next level and applies it to NextFest as a whole. So that is the one major change that's happened recently. Did I miss anything that?
just I guess just to reiterate a lot of the same points, but it uses the first 2 days of NextFest itself to learn about player behavior. So the stuff like people wishlisting or playing demos leading up to NextFest don't influence this. It's just once NextFest starts, then it's looking at the people that are wishlisting your game and people that are wishlisting other games and using that to basically create a recommendation system for which of those demos we should show to which customers. So, and once we switch from the totally random period to the recommendation driven period, it could be that some of your impressions go down overall in NextFest, but they should be better targeted towards the people that are most likely to play your game.
Great. With that, we're gonna jump into Q&A. There's only a few questions in there right now. So if you've got them, please go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, we'll just sit here and stare at you in silence. So we'll get started. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so Valerie has a question. We have a demo on Steam, but have some changes to it. Should we wait to release the changes to the demo, or can we do that now? It's really up to you. I don't know that there's necessarily any benefit to waiting to release those changes to your demo. You can do that now. If you have your demo is already live and people are playing it, seems like it's kind of always a good time to ship those updates and reassure people that you're paying attention, listening to their feedback, iterating on the demo. I don't think there's any advantage to waiting until NextFest itself.
We've got a question from Todd. AI content is a new thing since the last time I released a new game in 2020. There is now an AI-related survey that asks about AI-generated content. Will using some AI-generated art, even if very little, negatively affect my game's impressions in NextFest and beyond? We don't do anything in regards to suppressing traffic for games that respond to that AI related survey. That being said, there's two components you have to consider. There's what the Steam algorithm will do, which is nothing, and then what customers will do. So I think we've seen recently that there's a lot of pushback from customers who um, don't like the AI generated art. Whether, whether that's your opinion or not, there's definitely a group of people out there who don't like it. So it could be that those groups of people are going to be negatively impacted by your art. But that's true for anything you do with your art. There are going to be people out there who don't like your key art. And sometimes there's really not much you can do about that. So I would say take a look at your art, get opinion from uh, not just your friends, but like the people who are only like slightly familiar with what you're doing, and see how they react. And if the reaction there is good, you can use that as a proxy for, maybe the rest of Steam and go there. But no, Steam itself does not negatively impact your game because of anything that you fill out in that AI survey.
Next question. Alexander asks, in how many Next Fests can my game participate? Your game can participate in exactly one Next Fest. So you want to think about which Next Fest edition is the right for your timing and your goals for participation. We've heard a bunch of developers like to try to aim for the Next Fest that is closest to their release. Other developers may want to release or participate in a Next Fest earlier ahead of release so that they can gather feedback from their time in Next Fest and use that to further refine their game before release. So it's really up to you and your timing and kind of what goals, what you hope to accomplish out of participating in Next Fest.
I've got another question from Alexander, which is what can I do to better spotlight my game during Next Fest? What matters most between wishlists, followers, and downloads? Um, no, I think is the place to start. So, I mean, we start from this idea of like Next Fest should be equal opportunity and equal visibility on those first 24 or first 48 hours. And so for that reason, there's not much you can do in order to like appear higher in Next Fest because it is by nature randomized. That being said, we do have a charts tab in Next Fest, and I mean, we'll always have some form of chart, and we try and pick a sorting that makes sense for what users want. So oftentimes it's going to be sorted by its wish list count, or it's going to be sorted by recent wish lists, or maybe how many people are playing the demo actively. And some version of that will always exist in Next Fest. So you could try and optimize for that if you wanted, but I would say the best thing to do is make sure that your store page and your demo tell a cohesive story about what your game is, because you could get all of the, impressions in the world, but unless those impressions are coming from the right group of people who might want to buy your game, then it's not as useful, right? So make sure that your everything between the store page, your assets, your description is telling a good story about what your game is, and let Steam sort of help you find the right group of people for your game.
Yeah, and in general, we try to set up features and the way that Steam works so that there's not something that you need to secretly optimize in a certain way in order to find success. Our recommendations and our advice across the board stand as make a really compelling store page, make it reflect what your game actually is, make sure that people that come to your store page and see your marketing banners know what they're going to get. And when they get into the game or demo, they're not surprised that it's totally different. So I think if you follow that kind of general advice, you're going to be well suited for finding your happy customers. Next question from Michael. And Michael has a question about a fairly recent feature change that we rolled out. I think it's been about a year or so, which is we rolled out a bunch of improvements and changes to how demos work on Steam. And part of these changes include the ability to turn on a separate standalone store page for your demo. So that means that your demo can then, you could choose to have a separate page for your demo that is different from the page for your game. And obviously there's really a lot of prominent linking between those two things because they're so closely related. But really what what value you get out of having a standalone store page is that you have more space to describe the contents of the demo itself and distinguish that from what's in the full product. And by enabling a standalone store page for your demo, you also enable users to be able to write reviews for the demo itself. These reviews are attached entirely to the demo. They don't cross over to the full game at all. So it can be just merely a great way for you to get feedback from players that is directly associated only with your demo. And that can allow you to then, learn from what players are experiencing in your demo and be able to incorporate that feedback into your full game if it makes sense for you to do so. It's not really best practices. I think it's if you want that kind of setup and if you want space to describe your demo more clearly and if you want that kind of user review feedback from players, then turning on a standalone store page might be the right direction for you. If you don't want to deal with that, or if you just want a simple one landing page for your game and have the demo button just appear there, then you don't need to use a standalone store page. Like many of the features in Steam, it's entirely optional and you could choose whether it makes sense for your situation or not.
We've got a question from a different Michael. Are micro trailers still being prominently used, and is there an option to upload that separately, or is it still generated from your existing videos? So, it's a great question. Yes, micro trailers are being prominently used. If you have been to a recent Next Fest, you will have seen the trailer carousel up top. It's shows a bunch of trailers in order, just pages through them really quickly. We use the micro trailer for that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
So in that way, it's super important. And as it currently stands, the micro trailer is generated, I think, off the first trailer that you have in your carousel. So we're not going to generate a micro trailer for all of them, just the one that's first. Um, and at this time, there's no way for you to upload a custom one. Sorry about that. We'll take that feedback and think about it some more. But we recently made some updates so that micro trailer should be a lot more snappy than it used to be. So if you haven't looked at yours in a while, I'd recommend you go check it out. Yeah, so micro trailer is super important. If you upload your trailer and the micro trailer that we generate off of it is really not good, you can make some tweaks to your trailer, upload it again, and see if you get a better cut. And if that's still not the case, please don't hesitate, as always, to write into us and let us know, and we can take a look and see if there's something we can do better.
The next question is from Adrian. What is the deadline to publish your demo, and can changes be made before and during the Steam Next Fest? It's my first time participating. Yeah, so there's a couple of deadlines that you want to think about. When in order to publish your demo, release your demo, you'll have to go through both a store page review and a build review for your demo. Those we say they typically take 3 to 5 days, but quite often there is maybe something that's configured wrong, and so you'll get some feedback from our review team and need to go through that again. So I would give yourself at least a business week, if not two. The nice thing is you can continue to update your demo after you've gone through that process. So it doesn't have to be the very last thing you do. You just want to make sure that it's complete and it includes all the things that you describe that it should describe. So if you have a standalone demo page, it should include all the features that you describe on your demo store page. But you're welcome to keep updating it after that point. In our documentation, we have some deadlines for things like when you should have your demo build and store submitted for review. For participation in the June edition of Next Fest, it looks like that deadline is May 26th, is kind of the last date. We do have a press preview that starts on May 29th. So if you intend to have your demo available for that press preview, you probably want to submit your demo and store page for review another week or so earlier than that. So I would aim for like mid to early May, just to submit and get that reviewed. And again, you can continue to update both your store page and your demo build after it's gone through review. That's totally fine.
We've got kind of a follow-up question from Nat about the demo page. I've heard it's better to have a demo page versus having your demo available on your main game store page. Any tips for optimizing the demo page during Next Fest? Uh, I don't think we or anyone out there really has a very strong sense of whether it's better to have a standalone versus just having a demo on your main store page. I would say the most important thing in terms of optimizing for Next Fest is make sure you have somewhere for people to talk to you and make sure they know where that's supposed to be. A lot of times you're going to find people, sort of default to your Steam games like discussion forum. And that's perfectly fine as an option, but you want to make sure that you are prepared to respond to those. Um, I think in terms of how to optimize your demo page, just making sure that it is a accurate representation of what's in your demo. So if you have a separate demo page and it's only chapter one of your narrative story, or it has some kind of limitation to it, make sure that you don't just have the information from your base game in this demo page, because customers are going to see um, this is a 12 chapter story, but the demo is only one chapter. So you just want to avoid um, uh, misleading expectations in that case. And so that would be the most important thing. And the last thing I'll say about standalone demo pages is um, Steam does not care about the review score of your standalone demo page. However, customers might. So if you launch it with some game-breaking bugs and people write a bunch of negative reviews, we're not going to penalize you for that, but keep in mind that other people may end up on this demo page and say, oh, this is a negative demo, I'm not going to bother. And you've lost a chance to sell your game to someone. So make sure you're being really responsive to those bugs. Try and QA your demo as much as you can before you launch. Yeah.
Uh, Derek and Katie both had questions about kind of how the recommendation generating period works in Next Fest. So I'm going to recount that really quickly how it works, and then go into details on the two particular questions that they're asking. So the first 48 hours of Next Fest, everything, or yeah, almost everything within Next Fest is pretty randomly organized. So if you go to a carousel of games that shows action games, action adventure games, those will all just be ordered randomized. So everybody's got a fair chance at getting shown first in those carousels or last. So you'll find that you get quite a bit of visibility, just and kind of the same amount across all sorts of different games. During those first 48 hours, Steam is learning from which games people are going and wish listing in particular. And it's using that activity to generate a set of recommendations that we will then use during the rest of Next Fest after those first 2 days. So it doesn't matter what tags are applied to your game, it is looking at user behavior, and it's using those users' behavior to correlate them with other people. Even if other people had not participated in Next Fest at this point, we can use those behavior profiles to basically create an overlap. So if I play a set of games and Ria plays a set of games, and I go and wish list this game in Next Fest, then when Ria shows up to Next Fest, Steam is going to say, oh, you guys play a lot of the same games, so let's show that wish listed game to Ria. So that's really roughly how that works. There's not really anything you can do as a developer to optimize for that or make that better. Really, the whole intent is that Next Fest starts off as a level playing field and gives everybody a chance to find their audience and find the people that are responding and clicking wish list on those games. And it doesn't have to do with volume of wish lists. It just has to do with what are the profiles of the players that are clicking wish list on those games. And then Steam will recommend those games to other people that are similar profile, play similar games to those people that wish listed.
We've got a question from from iPhone. Hello, person on an iPhone. What kind of visibility or promotion can we expect during Steam Next Fest? So I expect that you are asking about that from like a more global sense. So Next Fest will be promoted on the front page of Steam in a large manner during the week that it is live. There's a couple different places it can appear on the front page, and it will change kind of just depending on what else we've got going on in the store at that time. But it's got front page visibility for a week on Steam. We send out what's called a pop-up marketing message to all users on Steam as well. And we also post about it in social media, and then we also do a press blast. So across these few things, I mean, we're a digital only event, so we appear in all the places you might expect digital-only things to be promoted. And so that's kind of what's done on our side. NextFest is also greatly amplified by all of you guys posting to your communities and social medias about your demos going live in NextFest. And that's kind of the way we promote NextFest as a platform. In regards to what visibility or promotion you can expect inside of NextFest as a participant, it kind of depends on how well you know, customers react to your store or to your store page and to your game. So there's no minimum bar necessarily that the system is trying to hit. Rather, as mentioned, for those first 48 hours, we are going to show your game equally to anyone who is coming by. And then after that, we're going to switch to a more targeted model. So that's what you can expect during Next Fest. There's no one out there who can tell you exactly how many impressions or wish lists you're going to get from it, but this is one of the few times where we're putting a spotlight on unreleased games on Steam. So it's a good opportunity to get some new eyeballs on your game.
Cheery asks, do opening reviews on my demo affect the demo build? We've had our demo up and have been updating it. Is it a good idea to wait till next fest to open reviews for more positive reviews with the best demo build? Ah, I see. So if you've had a demo up on Steam, available, playable already, and it's just a demo that's listed on your store page, your base games store page, and you're trying to decide, should I enable a standalone page for that demo, which would in turn, that would enable users to be able to leave reviews on the demo. If you plan to make updates to your demo, I guess I would wait until after you've made those updates, because that's probably going to give people the best impression of your demo. And I don't think there's any benefit or reason to doing it sooner unless you want to, I mean, you could ship your update sooner, enable reviews, and use that to gather feedback to make sure that you have a really well polished experience going into Next Fest. But you are also welcome to wait and ship that update just before Next Fest and enable reviews. Enable the standalone store page, which enables reviews, and do that just before Next Fest as well. The timing is really up to you. I don't think there's necessarily one right way to do that. But I guess if you have an update in mind, I would personally wait until you ship that update before enabling reviews, because that's going to just help you put your best foot forward.
Right, we've got a question from Johan. I wanted to know if submitting the trailer and demo earlier than the deadline increases the chances of being featured, or if submitting them just before the deadline makes no difference. Yeah, that's a great question. The reason why there's a deadline is because we are not looking at it whatsoever before that point. And then on that day, we do all of our filtering and judging, I suppose. So no, there's no benefit of getting any of that in early. That being said, you want to make sure you do get it in by that deadline, which is going to be April 29th in this case, which is when registration closes. We will be looking at all of those games and trailers by the end of the day, April 30. So you want to make sure that it's all good. There's actually a couple other questions about the trailer, so I'm just gonna kind of go out of order and answer those. We've got a couple of questions. How are the trailers selected? We actually select trailers. It's a kind of complicated process, but functionally, we're trying to show a good variety of games in our own trailer. So even if we had 20 very excellent, gritty, dark FPS titles in Next Fest, we'd probably only pick one or two of them to show in the trailer. So what we're trying to do is to communicate to customers coming to Next Fest that Next Fest has a very wide genre and style of games for them to play. So we're going to pick things on both ends of the spectrum, both cute, cozy games and dark noir titles. We're going to pick everything from farming sims to open world crafting games to platformers to whatever else might be in that Next Fest. So I would just say, hey, you want to make sure that your store page is eye-catching, because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at your store page. And then you want to make sure that your trailer is interesting as well. I will tell you, it is a two-step process here. We look at your store page first, and then someone goes and looks at all of the trailers for those store pages. So You kind of need to get both right to make it into the final trailer. That being said, it is an extra opportunity for more eyeballs on your game, but we've never really tracked how successful that is in pushing a lot of traffic. Again, our goal is not to promote your game necessarily, but it's to promote the next fest that your game is in. So if you aren't selected, don't worry. That doesn't mean your game isn't good. It just means that it wasn't what we were looking for our own goals. So yeah.
Yeah, as a word of reassurance, I wouldn't stress over whether you're included, whether your trailer is included in our official trailer or not. We don't have any evidence that it adds a big boost of impressions or excitement one way or the other to the games that are included. It's really just kind of a flavor to give fans an idea of, hey, look at the breadth of different genres and themes that are available in Next Fest.
Yeah, and it's probably worth saying also, like, just because someone here likes your trailer, it actually means nothing to your game. Well, you get like a +1 person, right? Unlike what you might expect or other platforms, really, Steam is all based on customer interest and algorithm and not our opinions here in Seattle. So for that reason, I feel like you might have this sense that, oh, being selected for the trailer by Steam means something larger, and it really doesn't. It just means you probably have one more person who's hitting that wish list button on your game, but it doesn't mean anything in a grander scale than that. So
Katie asks, in previous Next Fest as a participant, we were given access to see a preview of the Next Fest. I do not remember seeing that edition or that
option.
option in February. Would that be available again for June? Yeah, we did that in February too. We have this period that we call the developer preview. So it is an entire preview of the Next Fest page with the list of all the games that are registered at that time. And it gives you an idea of where your game is going to show up, kind of which carousels and how Next Fest is going to be presented. Those different carousels are organized based on the tags that you have applied to your game. So you can kind of look through there and see, well, I'm showing up in the action roguelikes, but my game is not actually a roguelike. That gives you time to go through and remove the roguelike tag from your store page and make sure you apply the ones that do make sense for your game. So that's really the entirety of why that page exists. And I believe we'll be sending that out. Well, actually, I guess I don't know exactly when we're going to be sending that out, but fairly soon. And we will send an email to all of you that have registered for June, letting you know that that is available. So I guess I would look for that in the next couple of weeks, probably.
Yes. So the developer preview page is also different from the press preview. I think you're talking about the developer preview, Katie. So that will be going out. Just keep an eye on your email.
The press preview, if you all have questions about that, is a period 10 days, starting 10 days before Next Fest officially starts. It is a page that we share with select members of the press. I believe that list is about 100 gaming focused outlets in a variety of languages and countries. And really, the goal there is to give that press a chance to see what games are going to be participating in Next Fest. We recommend, well, I guess we recommend if you want to increase the chances that your game gets written about, if you make your demo available at the start of that press preview, then the press are more likely to write about things that they can get their hands on and actually play. They're less likely to write about things where they can only see the trailer and kind of speculate on what the gameplay actually is. So if you want to give yourself the best chance of being able to get covered by press that write, here's the top 10 games we're excited about for Next Fest, then that press preview is entirely set up to accomplish that. And if you've been paying attention, every time Next Fest starts, there's a whole bunch of different game websites that release their, anticipated games of Next Fest lists. And everybody's got a different kind of view, and every, press outlet has a different segment of games that they cover or different kind of genres or themes. So there's a lot of variety that comes out of that. And that press preview page is entirely designed to help press be able to write those articles and have them ready to go the day that Next Fest starts.
We've got another question from Michael. I read it's best practice to do a developer stream during Next Fest. Do you see a significant rise in product engagement
Mhm.
and in impressions and wish listing, and what's the best practice here? So live streaming used to be a much larger part of Next Fest, and we've sort of removed the focus on live streaming as the years have gone by. So I would say, and the reason why we did that is because not everyone is equipped to do a live stream well. And it was kind of silly in hindsight for us to be pushing so much attention to something that isn't actually your game and your demo. So you can still live stream. We still have a tab for live streams on NextFest. I actually don't know how popular that page is. But as always, like if you have the skills and the time and the energy to do a good live stream, you should probably do it. And if you're working on other things, then you should not do a live stream. It depends on what your resources look like. If you have a game where showing what gameplay is difficult to do in screenshots and in your trailer, a looping live stream might be a really great way to give customers an early, quick look at what it's like to play your game. But I wouldn't sweat it. People have been variously successful or unsuccessful with their live streams over time. So I would say it has very much to do with what you've got the energy and skills to accomplish.
I'm going to answer three different questions that are about standalone store pages for demos, kind of how they work and how you can interact with them. So the questions are, can I turn on, off those standalone store pages? What happens if I turn them off and turn them back on again? And then also, is it apparent for players to find their way from the base store page, base game store page to the demo page? The answer to all that is yes. You can turn on or off the standalone store page for your demo as you see fit. It's designed there to be an option, and you can choose whether you want that standalone store page or not. Whether you have that enabled or not, there will be a prominent download demo button that appears on your base game's store page. And if you have a standalone store page for your demo, there will be a prominent link from your base game's store page to your demo standalone store page. Also, if you have a standalone store page, then within NextFest, when people click on your game, they will be taken to that demo's standalone store page instead of your base game's standalone store page. So just so you know how that works. If you disable the standalone store page uh, and then turn it back on later, all the reviews are still there that people had previously left on your demo. It doesn't reset your user reviews or anything like that. So that's just how that works. And now you know.
I'm also going to combine a few questions together where people are asking about how many games will be in June Next Fest. We don't know yet. It's really a moving target at this stage. There are a lot of games that are registered, but many of them will drop out before we hit the registration deadline. And part of that is people, deciding that they're not ready for this next fest, people wanting to do a future next fest for tactical reasons, what have you. So I don't have that number right now. But I would assume that we're probably going to see at least 1,000 games in June's Next Fest, since that seems to be the direction that we're trending.
Yeah, and hopefully by setting up Next Fest in the way that we do, with it being randomized and then generating recommendations after that, it shouldn't really matter how many games are in Next Fest. It should help you and your game connect with the people that are most likely interested in the kind of game that you're making. So yeah, and there's not really much you can do as far as how many other games are participating, and it's impossible to know how many might participate in future editions of Next Fest. So I would just focus on picking the Next Fest that is right for you and your timeline for development, and go with that. Uh, an anonymous attendee has a question: is there a limit to how many wish lists a game can get during Next Fest? No, sky's the limit. Go nuts.
I guess the maximum number of accounts is the real limit, but no, as mentioned, Steam doesn't have any like artificial minimums or maximums that it's aiming to hit. So as many wish lists and eyeballs as your game can get, it's all good.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not worth trying to game that. Like the wish lists are only valuable if the people that wish list your product are excited to see it release. Because really, what wish listing does is it sends an email notification to players when you release your full game, or in the future when you run a discount on your game. So
20% or more.
20% or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have a bunch of people that are super excited to receive those messages, and those are the people that are wish listing your game, that is going to be the most value for those wish lists. And then during Next Fest, during the 2 days where we're kind of learning from which games people are wish listing, it doesn't really matter how many people are wish listing the games. It matters what other games do those people play. So if it's being wish listed by people that play a lot of similar games to what you're making, that's great. That's probably going to help get your game recommended to the right set of people. And in general, that's how we build systems and try to optimize for how we run Steam.
We've got another question from Michael. Are there any guidelines or mandatories for the demo? Is there a minimum length? What are the best practices you've seen work best? This 100% depends on what game you're making. There's no minimum requirement on how long your demo needs to be. I would say it probably needs to be longer than 5 minutes though, because any shorter than that, and customers are likely going to be like, why did I bother downloading this thing if it's only going to be 5 minutes? So a bit longer than that, but beyond that, it depends on what kind of game you're doing. If you've got a roguelike game, people love infinite demos. What's a good example? Balatro came through Next Fest, and I believe that demo kind of went on infinitely. But if you've got a narrative game, obviously an infinite demo doesn't work. So think carefully about what is the best way to present to customers an interesting slice of gameplay that's enticing enough for them to want to hit that wish list button, but doesn't give everything away. So if you've got a narrative story with a big twist, the big twist absolutely does not belong in the demo. But beyond that, yeah, there's no requirement for it to be short or particularly long. The algorithm also doesn't look at how long people are playing those demos, so do keep that in mind too. I would optimize for your game and not for anything else.
And I would highly recommend playtest your demo with people that don't know you. Like generate some keys for your demo, get that out to people, get people hands-on with it, even like sit down and look over their shoulder and watch them play the demo. You probably want to end the demo at a point that leaves them wanting more. So leave them at a cliffhanger, leave them maybe just before the boss, or like make them feel like they've made some progress, but don't make them feel like, well, okay, I've played that game, I don't need the full game. So there's a fine art to figuring out where to end that demo, and you probably only really nail that if you get that in the hands of people and see how they react to where you conclude your demo.
That's kind of advice that we like to give across the board. Feedback, 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 right? Like, there's only so much that you can do with your very specific worldview. Getting other people who think differently from you is a great way of poking at the way you've described your game, the way your game is set up. And it's often good to get feedback from people who aren't your close, dear friends, who are more likely to say nice things to you because they like you as a person too. So that's kind of just blanket feedback across the board, not just for Next Fest, but for everything about your game, from your store page to your future roadmap. If you have one, it's always good to play test that against real people who are not you, who are not obligated to say really nice things to you. So do with that what you will.
There was a question that I think we missed, which was about the micro trailer that we had talked about earlier. The front page of Next Fest, the very first thing you see there is what we call a trailer carousel, and it's basically all of the games in Next Fest that you can flip through, and it's big presentation of trailer, and it starts with your micro trailer. And when we say micro trailer, we mean there's this little 6-second video that we generate by taking your main trailer and slicing it up into little chunks to try to summarize it for players. That micro trailer also appears when you hover over your game in any sale page, like or content hub throughout Steam. So if you find your game anywhere in both Next Fest, but also other content hubs. So if you're, say, the action roguelike game, you can go to that content hub, find your game. When you mouse over it, that's the micro trailer. That's also where we're using that. So you can see what we've done there. And really, our goal is to basically summarize your trailer. We're not trying to tell a story with the micro trailer. It's really trying to give customers a little glance at give them an impression of what it's like to play the game, or at least what are the segments from that trailer?
Yeah, kind of like when you're like, just scrolling on your phone infinitely through whatever your social media platform of choice is, just like snippets of things and the things that catch your attention, you stay on it. Uh I don't think that was the intention, but that's kind of what we ended up making. I do think it's good feedback though. Maybe we'll see if there's somewhere we can put your micro trailer that's a little easier to find that doesn't require you to go hunting for it. Um so we'll take that feedback. We've got a question from Cheery. Is there a Steam support Discord? No. At least there's no official Steam Discord. The only way that Steam is going to contact you is through Steam and Steamworks. If you ever get a message from Steam support through X, through your email, through Discord, through carrier pigeon, not us. We're only ever going to contact you through Steamworks and the associated emails that come out of that. There are plenty of game developer communities all around the world, all around the internet, and I'm sure there's good places for you to chat with fellow developers, but at least in regards to accessing us, we are not going to be talking to you through Discord. So if you get a message from someone claiming to be from Steam, it's probably a scam.
There is also a Steamworks developer group in Steam. And so there is a chat associated with that. And there's also forums associated with that. That is linked from the Steamworks website. So you can go join that group and join the forums, join the chat if you want to hang out with other people that are making games. Let's see. So another person asks, is there a way to get feedback from Steam about how our demo is performing compared to others? We generally don't try to generate comparative performance things like that because every product is so different. Just because your demo has shorter playtime or has fewer people clicking from the store page to launch the demo, that doesn't mean anything about your demo compared to somebody else's demo. It could just be that, maybe people wishlist your game without even playing the demo because the store page tells them what they want to know. Or maybe they play your demo less because you just have a shorter demo. That's okay. There's no good or bad about that. So we don't try to generate really any results or evaluations of how your game compares to anybody else's game. Your goals are also different. The amount of time you invested in your product is different. There's just way too many variables to actually create an apples to apples comparison.
I'm gonna ask you to answer this one because I know you were part of the team that worked on that.
Yeah. So next question, are there any post-fest metrics or reports that we will receive? Yes. At the end of next fest, we pop up on your Steamworks dashboard. There's a lovely little display there that lists out how many wish lists you got during next fest, your game or games, how many wish lists you got, how many demos you got, and then how many people both wish listed and played the demo. The number that you get there is going to be entirely relevant to you and your context. So it may be a big number or it may be a little number. It is really just going to be a reflection of how people engage with your product during Next Fest. There's also a link from that little metrics report where you can fill out a survey and tell us how we did with Next Fest and if you have any feedback about it. So keep your eye out for that too. We love reading that feedback and figuring out how we can further refine and fine tune Next Fest to work better for everybody.
Yeah, and not quite a post-fest metrics report, but we do also at the end of Next Fest post a top 50, 50?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, top 50 most played demo lists as a recap of how the event went. And that's strictly just it's literally just the top 50 games sorted by demo player count. So that's also something that we provide for customers at the end of the event. If that is you and your game, we will also send you an email letting you know about that, so you can maybe keep your demo up for a bit longer if you're planning on taking that down.
Word of advice for anybody in general, I would recommend keeping your demo up for a week or two after Next Fest. Our sense is that a lot of players are able to download a bunch of demos and then they may not get around to playing them all that week. A week is not really that long of a time period. So if you leave your demo up and available for a couple of weeks after Next Fest, it just gives a chance for more of those players to have time in their busy schedules to actually try out your demo. So if you turn it off immediately after Next Fest, then you're just removing the potential for that to happen.
Yeah. People are procrastinators. I just played a demo 2 weeks ago from February's Next Fest that I forgot about. So do it for people like me. Please keep it up for as long as you're comfortable. We've got a question from Alexander. Is there any significant difference between this upcoming Next Fest and the previous one? Not yet. Probably not, given how close we are to this Next Fest launching. We are always trying to make Next Fest better, and that often means tinkering with it fest to fest. We don't often do any major overhauls. I think October of last year was our last major overhaul. And we'll probably let this one sit, this format sit for a while. We've gotten good feedback. People seem to like how it's doing. So we'll keep this until there's reason to change it again. So we're never going to promise that the upcoming Next Fest is going to be the exact same as the last one, but in this case, June does not have any significant changes from February.
Adrian asks, if my store page is available in English and Spanish, but not the game itself, will it still be shown to people who don't speak those languages, such as Chinese, Japanese, Russian, etc.? Yeah, so language basically works this way. Steam is more likely to recommend your game to people who speak the language that your game supports, but it is not a hard filter. So your game can still appear to people regardless of what language they speak. And a lot of times products people can play games or demos without understanding the words that are happening in those games or demos anyways. I would think about, if there's things that you can do to make sure that your game and demo are accessible to people regardless of language, using icons and illustrations and things to help prompt people so they can find their way through your menu without having to know exactly which words mean which things, stuff like that. Like, make your play button on your main screen like the big glowy green thing that is clear people should click, and not just something in a big long list of other menu options. But the specific languages you support don't necessarily hold you back all that much. Steam is just slightly more likely to recommend your game or demo to people that speak the languages that it supports.
Yeah, and think about it this way, if you are someone who only speaks Japanese, how appealing is your store page going to be to them if they don't speak any English? Obviously, translation tools exist now, so they could just throw your store page into a translation thing and get an output. Whether that's a good, description of what your game actually is obviously going to be a different thing. So keep that in mind. Not everyone on the platform is going to be a native X speaker, so make sure you just think about what it's like to not understand the language that you've got your page in. We've got another question from iPhone, who I now know is John. So hello, John. What best practices have you seen from other indie devs that help them stand out during Next Fest? I think we've covered this a little bit in terms of standing out in Next Fest being a bit of a misnomer, but the way that other devs have been successful during Next Fest is very much about, I think, kind of three things. One, they promote their participation in Next Fest, not just in their own communities, but in other spaces where games like theirs are well received. So that's going to be everything from Discord to subreddit to I don't know, is LiveJournal still alive in this day and age? Wherever that might be, promoting your game in those places. Two, people who really work on building a community seem to do quite well during Next Fest, especially for games that have a lot of excitement. If you can build a community of people who are talking to each other eagerly about your game, then you don't have to do anything to build that hype. They'll do it for you. And then three, just making sure that not only do you have a place for people to give you feedback, but you also listen to it. Especially if it's like a bug, you want to be sure and squish that as soon as you can. The reason why timeliness is important is because Next Fest is a time where you're getting a flood of people coming in to try your demo. Even if there is a 1% chance that they hit a bug, that is 1% of those demo players hitting a bug that's probably going to put them off of the game, and they're less likely to wishlist it if their experience with your demo is just a bug instead of actual gameplay. So making sure that you've got a polished experience, that you have a place to, for people to talk and build community and give feedback is really important. And then just promoting it where you can is kind of our blanket advice when it comes to doing well at Next Fest.
Also, what makes any game stand out anywhere? So do some research. Look at the games that you really admire and that you have seen that have gotten a lot of attention. What are they doing? What is leading to that? And think about the ways that you can engage in similar kinds of activities, or at least try those activities and see if they resonate with your audience and your game.
We have 7 minutes left, so I'm going to lightning round a couple of questions here. Katie asks, when will we have our asset kit for this upcoming Next Fest? We will have it eventually. Keep an eye on your email. We'll let you know when that happens. Sorry, deadlines are hard. I'm planning on releasing my game into early access. Is there anything I need to do differently for Next Fest? No, just make sure that you've filled out that early access questionnaire because that is required for your store page. John asks, how much do press kits, live streams, or dev Q&As actually affect our visibility on the Steam Fest page? Not at all. Live streams are their own section, so that's completely siloed over there. I guess it does increase your visibility because it's another place you can show up, but none of those things changes how we're going to display the game to customers. Any lightning ones we can do? Michael has a question. Can we bundle our demo with other demos? No. Bundling is only available for games once they are released. So before that, nothing you can do on that front. All right, shall we answer one or two more long form questions?
Sure. Let's see here. Michael has a question about running an exclusive giveaway during Next Fest. I'm not going to get super into the details here, but I would tread carefully and thoughtfully around any kind of giveaway. Different countries, different places have all sorts of rules around giveaways. So I would make sure that you're paying attention to whether you're adhering to the right rules and things around that. Also, think about what you're trying to accomplish with the giveaway. In my experience, giveaways tend to drive people to do things that they wouldn't necessarily want to do or be interested in doing. So if you're trying to incentivize people to say, wishlist your game in exchange for being entered to win some amount of money, I don't think that's going to get the right kind of people to wishlist your game that you actually want to have wishlisted your game. And that's going to distort the data that you can get out of understanding how many people are really interested in your game. So I would just tread carefully in anything around that.
Yeah, we've seen games with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of wish lists not do well on launch. And sometimes we get the question, oh, did I do something wrong? And sometimes the answer is, well, you got a bunch of wish lists from people who weren't actually likely to convert. And so that doesn't help you understand how much, ongoing demand there is for your game. So that would be our suggestion. Katie asks the question, will you ever consider weighing multiplayer games differently than single player demos when looking at the top 50 games? Probably not. Because that's really complicated. And, what is a multiplayer game versus a single player? Some demos have both. I don't think we would want to police it that hard. Keep in mind, though, that top 50 list tends to have a lot of single player demos in there. So whatever it is that people are doing seem to be pretty successful. So, hey.
And then maybe a couple last questions.
Yeah.
And feel free to drop a question into the Q&A channel if you have a last minute question. Alexander's asking how many games can get into the Steam trailer. I think we aim for somewhere around 15 to 20. But again, I wouldn't sweat it. We use that in order to just generally drive traffic to Next Fest and get people excited about participating in the overall event. it's not really meant to as a goal to try to highlight individual games and drive traffic to those individual games. And we don't really have a lot of evidence that it works significantly to do that for any of the games included in the trailer. It's really just we'd like to be able to use some games to show off how many neat, cool things are happening in Next Fest. So I would just look at it through that way.
Yeah, and as we're coming to the end of the hour with you guys, just wanted to close out with a couple of things. Sorry, John, we didn't get to your last question, but that one is definitely going to take more than three minutes. So I want to use this as a segue. If you've got any questions for us that we weren't able to answer for you today, first take a look at documentation. We have spent so much time writing and reviewing and revising. Hey, you worked on it too. So please someone read my documentation. But mostly because, a lot of the questions that we get from you guys, we've gotten them before, so we have a lot of answers in documentation. But aside from that, if you've got more questions, feedback, whatever, you can always actually contact us. So I'm going to leave a link in the channel. This is our support ticket system. And those actually just go straight to us. I think people think that like, oh, like you guys never look at tickets, but like, absolutely. We do. You might get a response from me. If you ask specifically for me, people will try and do their best to get it to me. But anyways, yeah, so if you've got any further questions for us, go ahead and leave us a comment or a question in the support system. Documentation is there for you guys. If we're going to see you all in the June Next Fest, that's fabulous. And if we see you for a future one, that is also totally great. We will continue to run these indefinitely from now until it's no longer useful as a feature for you guys or as for customers. And those are always going to be in February, June, and October. So I think we've got October's dates already announced. We will probably have February's dates announced in the next few months or so. So keep an eye out. But otherwise, thank you all for coming. Sorry, Stefano, that we got the time was not what you thought it was going to be. But for the rest of you guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time, maybe.
And we'll have a recording of this up on our YouTube channel
Eventually.
eventually. Yes. Days from now, yeah, soon.
Yeah.
All
Time.
right. Thank you all for joining us.
Bye,
Have a good rest of your
guys.
day.